Hello and welcome to another morning update live on NTN. Well, we're back in studio coming off of the last week and just yesterday a sitting of Senate looking at the appropriations bill for 2021-2022. Of course, it was passed in both houses, and so far the government of St. Lucia will be going forward with the governance of things into this new fiscal year, being guided by the appropriations bill. We have quite a few updates for you, but not to take up the full hour this morning, just about 30 minutes, going over the extended protocols for COVID-19 response here on island, and also no new cases of COVID-19 to report, but we will be hearing from the Ministry of Health in just a moment in terms of what they are continuing to do in terms of the COVID-19 response. The national vaccination campaign continues. As you would know, well over 20,000 persons are receiving their first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and also about 40 individuals receiving their second dose to date. We have word on the disaster vulnerability reduction project, again serving the island well. We'll get into the details of that. And also word from the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. They will be introducing a couple more Bachelor of Arts programs. So do stay tuned for that. I will just provide that update on where you can look to get that information in terms of their new offerings as well. So that and more coming up in the next 30 minutes or so. We continue to watch over the volcano in St. Vincent. Of course, St. Lucia's, our thoughts and prayers going out to the individuals there. Also, supplies going out there as well. We do hope everyone is safe and sound, and the individuals who are displaced, they do find their place in society as soon as possible again. So stay with us. On the other end of this break, we get into the details of things.
We at war with a virus, ready to harm us. Panic is not the answer. We can win this together. Often use hand sanitizer, better yet use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No, no.
Advice give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying with us. This is the morning update live on NTN. If you're joining us on air online, a special good morning to you, St. Lucians in the Diaspora and residents right here at home. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We know many of you are going about your day. Of course, we're getting used to this new normal. Persons are continuing to earn a living. Persons are sending their kids off to school. School's back on as of the 19th of April this week. We do hope that your kids have been equipped with some hand sanitizer and at least 2 face masks to go to school so that they are able to protect themselves from the risk of infection. We have word from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Just yesterday, we did hear that there are no new cases of COVID-19, and that's quite encouraging. We know that in the last year, it's all that has dominated the news, and so far today, we're hearing no new cases. I do hope that trend continues. If not, we register at least single-digit increases day by day. We do note that everyone as many persons, majority of persons are adhering to the protocol so far. Businesses out there are continuing to adhere, and we do appreciate that very much. The effort is to reduce the risk of infection, hopefully eliminate COVID-19 altogether from our population. And that is why also ongoing is the national vaccination campaign. So as I indicated, no new cases of COVID-19 to report coming out of the latest press release from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. However, well, most fortunately as well, we have confirmation of the recovery of 5 individuals who were diagnosed with COVID-19. So that brings the total number of active cases in country to date to 80, double digit at this time, when we were at one point in time weeks ago grappling with, by the hundreds of cases. So presently, 1 active case is requiring critical care at the respiratory hospital. So the total number of cases registered to date since March of last year is now 4,419. As of Monday, April 19th, 23,733 individuals received their first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and receiving the second dose is 57 individuals. So 57 individuals essentially have received the degree of immunity pledged by the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. If you are interested in getting vaccinated, you can always, as I repeat so often, hmi.govt.lc. Or you could also go to the nearest community wellness center, let them know you're interested, so they can do it on your behalf. The Ministry of Health is reminding everyone to please continue to adhere to the basic infection prevention and control guidelines. Those recommendations are very important. They're critical in determining, your level of risk for contracting COVID-19. And I mean, we're seeing the numbers going down. We're making gains. There's some momentum being made in terms of the national vaccine campaign, but we still need to be very vigilant at this time. And speaking of such, the government of St. Lucia has indicated that it will be keeping its COVID-19 protocols until May 16th, 2021. So the daily curfew remains from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. From 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. I got my wires crossed there, until May 16th. So this is part of the continued intent of the government to reduce our risk of contracting COVID-19. So the curfew remains, the work from home regimes remain. If you are part of a company, if you're running a company that has the work from home regime still on, that continues. All agencies should continue to implement a blended service or operations approach where possible for their employees. You don't want people moving around too much. The effort is to reduce movement, remain at home as much as possible. Business operating hours, all business operations and commercial activities shall cease operation consistent with the curfew. So, the curfew is at 9 p.m. You ought to give your staff a little bit of time, at least prior, so that they can wrap up, close operations, and then head home so that they are well within the curfew time, as guided by the state of emergency. Restrictions on social gatherings. Social gatherings are restricted to no more than 10 people of the immediate family. So in public and private settings, we have individuals who you are encouraged to limit your contact as much as possible and adhere to the protocols. So no allowance is being given for mass gatherings, no social events of any kind. Loud music permits, forget about it. The police will not approve it for you. So we're still hunkering down essentially. And I want to note, this past weekend there were some reports that the lapse in the COVID-19 protocols on the 16th, persons thought that it was all well and good to have a good time. I mean, even if you're not being guided and you don't have the firm hand of the government and the authorities on you, please, the COVID-19 situation remains very feverish, for lack of a better word. We encourage you to take it upon yourself to adhere to these protocols, even when it's not being enforced. In terms of religious institutions, Roger, continuing, all daily or regular church and religious services are permitted in accordance with social distancing protocols. Religious institutions may carry out services according to the square footage of the church, and this is guided by each institution's guidelines and protocols as approved by the Ministry of Equity as well as Health. Special religious rites, we're talking baptisms, weddings, funerals, they will be limited to a maximum of 50 individuals. That is inclusive of observers and service leaders. Now, other special events, we're talking boat excursions for up to 10 persons only. This is permissible for crude, yacht, charters, and family boaters. You're thinking boat ride? No. Excursion plans Absolutely no dayboat party charters are being allowed, and that is consistent with the earlier mention of no mass gatherings, no events of any kind in that respect. Of course, the music permits are not being allowed by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, so you can forget about it. Excursion plans must be reported. That is excursions for the crude yacht charters and the family boaters. They must be reported to the lighthouse ahead of the journey. Restrictions on sporting activities. All competitive and high-contact sporting activities, that is inclusive of indoor and outdoor trainings, local competitions, or social activities, are prohibited. Provisions apply for individual or immediate family households to exercise in a safe open-air space. Gyms are permitted per square footage and protocols, and a non-contact sporting activity is allowed if there are no more than 15 persons in attendance, and that is including spectators and crowds. You will note it has been talked about in the last 2 weeks, the preparation, the lead up to the reopening of schools. Schools are allowed in-class training and instruction. Of course, this is in keeping with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education's continuity plan for schools in St. Lucia to operate in a safe space on a specified system. And just to note, the kids have been home for quite some time. So, you know, just to go to the word of the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Fiona Philip-Meyer, she did indicate that they won't be just thrust into hardcore class instruction immediately. There is a process that they will take the kids into in terms of, you know, sort of counseling, weaning back into that environment. We know it has not been easy for anyone since the pandemic started, but most of all, our kids need to be protected psychologically above all, you know. So there is work happening, not only in terms of the COVID-19 response, but also gradually getting our kids back in the groove of the classroom setting after they've been home for quite some time, learning at home and getting used to home. The return to school will be something that will need some adjusting to. So please take note of these protocols. Please take note of the word from the government of St. Lucia. Most of the protocols that are being extended, they have been there for quite some time. We are already used to it. We should not, it's not no great departure from what has been obtained for the last year or so. So, I mean, persons should know, carry your mask with you if you're heading out, you're stepping out the door to go to the corner shop or to take a bus to go to town. Ensure that you are adhering to the protocols, using copious amounts of hand sanitizer, especially when you're going into an establishment, the bank. We know that these institutions are ensuring that their patrons and staff are adhering to the protocol. So please, if you see the hand sanitizer posts, make use of them. It is important that you frequently rid yourself of any germs, and more specifically, the coronavirus. We are due for a break. When we come back, we're going to go over a few some bulletin information. So do stay with us. That includes the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, again, serving the island well. So stay tuned for that and more on the other end of this break.
Do you know we can limit the spread of the COVID-19 virus? The Ministry of Health is your partner in achieving this solution. Introducing the Amber Wristwatch. The Amber Wristwatch is designed for monitoring daily movements while in quarantine. It provides an accurate location and a precise heart rate. The device is also waterproof and can be worn during all daily functions, like washing the dishes or taking a shower. It's worn like a typical timepiece. The Ministry of Health can now better monitor people in home quarantine and receive alerts of those who do not stay in the confines of their home. A 14-day rental of the Amber Wristwatch is just $75 US. Let us stop the breaches of home quarantine.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Just a quick update from the UE Seismic Research Center in terms of La Soufriere in St. Vincent. The activity there is continuing the pattern that was established after the explosive activity, you would recall, on Sunday. That was the 18th of April. So small, long period and hybrid earthquakes continue to be recorded by the seismologists, the geologists. The network also recorded a few rockfalls and volcano tectonic earthquakes. No seismic tremor has been recorded in the last 12 hours, and that was received yesterday yesterday evening. So measurements of sulfur dioxide flux SO2 mass at La Soufriere volcano was again undertaken under the west coast with the assistance of the Coast Guard. Measurements yielded at an average of 350 tons per day. And since the initial depressurization noted immediately following the April 9th explosive phase, the continuous GPS network has recorded a decrease in the overall rates of horizontal and vertical movement. The volcano continues to erupt. Its pattern of seismic activity over the last few days is typical of the growth and destruction of lava domes. Explosions with accompanying ashfall of similar or larger magnitude can occur with little or no warning, impacting St. Vincent and neighboring islands. The volcano continues to be at alert level red, and we are encouraging persons in that area. If you're tuned into NTN from here in St. Lucia, we encourage you to please keep safe. We know there are many persons who have remained in the nearby communities at a great risk to themselves, and we do hope that they, decide upon leaving there as soon as possible in their best interest. And we also had a report of the Professor Robertson having to call out an individual for actually climbing the volcano itself, and which is very dangerous. We do hope everyone is keeping safe out there and making the right decisions to protect themselves. Continuing with our updates this morning, going back to COVID-19, the Water and Sewage Company, Inc., in support of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, they did have their vaccination drive against COVID-19. They facilitated the inoculation of staff on premises. The effort, which was spearheaded by the Ministry and Safety Office and the Human Resources Department, has resulted in the ready access to the first round of the COVID-19 vaccine to staff across that organization. The move was initiated in light of the busy work schedules of employees within the various departments and made access readily available to those who wish to get vaccinated. WASCO does note the improvements in the COVID-19 numbers recorded by the ministry and did want to play a part in the continued downward trend in terms of the cases that are being registered. And while the company has set up vaccination booths both at its northern and southern branches, WASCO stresses to all employees that the administration of the vaccine is not mandatory. Nationally, the vaccine being administered, it is not mandatory, but the effort is to get some of, particularly our sectors, tourism sector, commercial sector, the education sector, where you come into contact with multiple people at a time, to begin to reduce the risk of contracting COVID-19. So the encouragement, the admonition from the government of St. Lucia is that you decide to get vaccinated as soon as possible so that we can come back to some sense of normalcy in our society. And so far we have seen so many persons coming to get vaccinated, well over 20,000 persons, 23,000 individuals, and I think it's 57 in the last count getting their second dose of the vaccine. So much to the satisfaction of the Ministry of Health, they're covering good ground in terms of inoculating the population against COVID-19. So please take note of that. We have an update from the Office of Diaspora Affairs. We have the Ambassador, Dr. Fletcher, Her Excellency Dr. Fletcher, receiving a donation from a group in the United Kingdom. And it's very important to note that our friends, everyone, our St. Lucians in the diaspora, they are rushing to the aid of St. Lucians here at this time. The government of St. Lucia at this time, funds have had to be reallocated in the last year by the government of St. Lucia to meet the demand that COVID-19 brought in terms of the response to it, primarily in the healthcare sector, but also social sector, having to deal with persons who were caught off guard by COVID-19 and would have to rely more on the government for some sustenance until they got back on their feet, until we got back to some sense of normalcy. And the diaspora has rushed to the assistance of the home country, essentially. So just to show you a quick clip from Her Excellency Dr. Fletcher, on behalf of the UK group Unity St. Lucia, providing this latest donation to the Ministry of Health. Take a look.
Association is they call themselves actually Unity UK Association. They have they're made up of a number of associations in the UK, so they're the umbrella of those associations, and together they have been sending a lot of things down to St. Lucia, but on the call from the Ministry of Health for assistance, they have donated 10 commodes to the Ministry of Health on behalf of that association. So we are saying to the Mrs. Jean, who is the procurement officer of the Ministry of Health. Am I correct, Mrs. Jean?
Sure.
So we are saying to, on behalf of Unity St. Lucia UK Association, I present you with, this is a sample of what is in those boxes, 10 of them to the Ministry of Health. We would feel. So what you have to say, thank you.
So on behalf of the Ministry of Health, we'd like to thank the Unity Association through our Diaspora office in facilitating the 10 commodes, and we will assure you that these commodes will get to the places which need it at our health institutions and perhaps to patients who may be in dire need of it. So again, on behalf of the Ministry of Health, we are grateful for this donation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So that was a scene from the Office of the Diaspora Affairs. Her Excellency Dr. Fletcher making the donation of 10 commodes from the Unity St. Lucia UK Association. Diaspora, thank you so much for all of your efforts to the homeland. The donation is as a result from the call of the Ministry of Health. They did indicate that they wanted some assistance, and the Diaspora did respond, and that was just one such instance of a donation, a presentation. There are more donations on the way. We did have, as you saw, Mrs. Alison Jean, Procurement Officer in the Ministry of Health, accepting on the behalf of the ministry. The donation was done last week, I believe. So again, thank you to the efforts not only of the Diaspora, but also the Office of Diaspora Affairs. I want to commend Her Excellency Dr. Fletcher for the work that she continues to do in terms of rallying up the diaspora, identifying who these individuals are, both part of organizations and unattached in these countries, to try to assist St. Lucia at this time. So thank you very much. Finally, in our updates, we have word from the South Louis Community College of 4 new Bachelor of Arts programs that they are launching, and I hope that students are listening to this. You're in your final year of secondary school, you are at A-level right now, you're thinking of what to do. The South Louis Community College is continuing to add to its offerings. We know that they did just that a couple of weeks ago, just ahead of months ago, ahead of registration for January. But again, they will be announcing 4 new Bachelor of Arts programs. The press launch will be held today. That will be at 10:30 a.m. So we encourage you to take a listen, go on to the South Louis Community College Facebook page. I think there should be a live there, so where you can get the gist of what's happening and how you can perhaps take advantage in terms of furthering your education. Well, we've come to the end of the morning update. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please be reminded the appropriations bill for 2021-2022 has been passed in the upper and the lower house of Parliament. Also, no new cases of COVID-19 to report. However, 5 recoveries have been reported by the Ministry of Health. We also have the vaccinations continuing. We encourage you to go on to hmi.govt. Keep your eyes peeled to the Ministry of Health and Wellness's Facebook page. They post updates quite frequently there, and so you can know when you can go get vaccinated, which locations. And of course, be reminded also that St. Lucia is continuing. They have extended the COVID-19 protocols. The daily curfew remains 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. until May 16th, 2021. And this is a part of the continued effort that hopefully by summer, October there, we would have made significant gains within the 2-year span of our COVID-19 response, and hopefully have our tourism back on the up and up, and having more of our sectors on the up and up, recovering slow and steady from COVID-19. That's all for now. I'd like to thank you so much. Keep safe out there until we meet again tomorrow morning, same time. Do keep safe, adhere to the protocols. Go on to the Prime Minister's Facebook page, the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. There are frequent updates. You can get to know more intimately what's happening in terms of the COVID-19 response and the part of the Ministry of Health, the Government of St. Lucia Cabinet. Take a look at some of the parliamentary proceedings. You can gain some insight into how the parliamentarians feel, how your representatives feel about the COVID-19 response in St. Lucia at this time. Just keeping more and more aware, because that is, if not the most essential thing at this time, is being aware and being informed so that you can make the best decisions for yourself and your family. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now. Keep safe until we meet again. Cheers. Stay tuned for more NTN programming.